What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for November 21st, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast. We have a lot to get to today, so let's get started. First, some housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever the new platform is that is supposed to be the rival of Twitter. I have an account. I haven't really synced it or loaded it up, so stay tuned for that if you're going to go over there. And then subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Subscribe, like, all that other good stuff. Working on some things. As I mentioned, I am working on cleaning up some of the presentation and the visuals of the podcast, so stay tuned for that once I kind of work through all of that. And a side note, if any of you out there, or if you know anyone who is pretty well versed in copyright law, hit me up. I'm trying to figure out a way, without breaking the bank, to sort of include some highlights when I do the This Day or some photos or something, but the prices I'm finding are just ridiculous. I'm thinking under the fair use policy, since it's more of me reporting the news, I might be able to get away with it, but I'm hesitant to do that without being super clear. I've been doing a lot of reading and research on that. So if anybody out there knows someone who's good with copyright law, or if you're good with copyright law, hit me up offline so we can have a discussion. I have some ideas. I just don't want to cause more problems while I'm trying to make things better. So hit me up if you can do that. And then just spread the word. If you're enjoying this, likely someone else will too. This is more of a grassroots sort of growth of this. I don't have the Swifties or NFL money to back me up here. So we've done a lot and come a long way in 3 years. So, or in a little over 2 years, I should say, but going back to the Future podcast. So continue to spread the word, and I appreciate you. We're almost halfway into our gift portion of the gift and food drive, blowing numbers out of the water. Donations are coming in every day, so please, if you can, donate. $5 is all it takes. If you want to donate more, that's fine too. All the information you need is in the description, but we're trying to get gift cards for our friends and neighbors in the area through the Maddie Ann Dixon Community Cupboard, basically giving them an opportunity to have a Merry Christmas. So if you can, please give. The information is in the description. Starting December 1st, we're going to kick off the gift and food drive. But thank you for everyone who has donated so far and continue to support that great organization. Looking forward to going over there with just a stack of gift cards and saying, here you go. So thank you for all that. There's still plenty of time to donate as well. Before we get into the episode, though, we do have a couple big milestones and a huge congratulations and good luck to one of our local teams. First and foremost, congratulations to Gino Auriemma, who is now the all-time leading wins leader in college basketball, both men's and women's, doing great things up at UConn. Norristown's own Gino Auriemma, so congratulations to him on becoming the all-time winningest coach in NCAA basketball history. And then there's a big game coming up, I believe, tomorrow. The St. Joe's field hockey team is in the Final Four. They're taking on undefeated and number one ranked UNC out in Ann Arbor. So good luck to the St. Joe's women as they look to bring home the field hockey title. I'll look and see. I believe that game is tomorrow. I'll get some information. My neighbor actually does some broadcast work for field hockey, so I will get the information from her and pass that along if you are interested. I know a lot of us have daughters out there who play field hockey or would be interested in it, so I'll get that information out to you. But good luck to the St. Joe's women's field hockey team, and congrats to Gino Auriemma for becoming the all-time winningest coach in all of college basketball. All right, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, can the Sixers rebound from the team meeting that happened? It was a very close vote, but 60% of you think they could. I know a lot of beat writers and national pundits were saying they could recover from this. I'm still not so sure. I'm not on that side of the fence yet. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day and getting in touch through the Back to the Future voice and text line. There will be another question here in a minute. But let's stick with the Sixers for right now. And prior to the game, Lou Williams was on a podcast and said he was in contact with some people who were in the locker room. Said the whole meeting and calling out of Joe was blown out of proportion. It was kind of like a comment. Maxey was sitting next to him, and they were kind of laughing after the fact, so there was no, I guess, hard feelings or anything. And whether or not it was blown out of proportion, there has to be some level of kernel of truth there. Because why would you even say you're late to everything if he's not late to everything? That just doesn't make any sense. So whether or not it was blown out of proportion, there is a level of sort of truth there, I would think, that Maxey, because Maxey doesn't seem like he's that kind of guy anyway. But speaking of Maxey, he did come back last night, was on a minutes restriction, struggled to get his footing or whatnot underneath of him. Joe did play fairly well, scored 35, still looked like he had some rust to shake off. But, man, Memphis came out and just shot lights out from three-point range. 117-111 loss for the Sixers. Showed some more energy, more sort of focus than what they've had. This is also the last game of a 3-game road trip, so there could have been some fatigue there, coupled with the team meeting. So we got Tyrese back. Joe looked like he was getting slowly back to himself, and then boom. The other shoe dropped once again. Paul George hyperextended his same knee that he hyperextended in preseason. Nick Nurse, during his press conference, said he doesn't think that there's any structural damage, that he was getting ready to come back into the game, actually, and then it stiffened up a little bit. This team just cannot buy a break. They're back home for 3 starting tomorrow, leading into Thanksgiving. But after the game is where sort of things got a little weird. Joe was very passive-aggressive. Basically said there's nothing to really be worried about. He appreciated it, kind of what you think he would say. And he's like, you know what, though? Let's blow it out of proportion. It's me. It's got to be a big story. I'll take the blame. I'll take all the blame. Very passive-aggressive. So I think... I don't know what to expect from this team moving forward, but they are now 2-12, worst record in the NBA, and they're slowly getting to the point where, at least here in Philly, they're going to be irrelevant. So we'll see what happens. I do. Hopefully Paul George is okay, but it's not like he's been playing even close to the shell of Paul George. So hopefully we did not buy damaged goods on that one. But that leads to today's question of the day. I saw a lot of folks on Twitter and social media talking about this and discussing this. 2-12, a lot of times with the talent that this team has, sometimes something needs to change to spark them. You see it all the time across all sports. And they were talking about firing Nick Nurse. Not sure who they would bring in. However, should the Sixers consider firing Nick Nurse to spark this team? I don't think I'm there. But what do you think? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Should the Sixers consider firing Nick Nurse to spark this team? Let me know your thoughts on that. Anything else Philly sports related on the Back to the Future voice and text line. 267-495-8531. All right, Flyers got... pretty much whipped by a very good team last night, 4-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes. Our old pal and 2024 Philly Sports Hall of Fame inductee Rod Brindamore is the coach down there. They just got outplayed. And Carolina is a Stanley Cup contender. So I think this was a good measuring stick of where this team is and where they want to be and where they need to go. They're not there yet. It's sometimes easy to forget in everything that we are in the middle of a rebuild. So this was a good reminder that it's a slow process. I appreciate what Danny Briere and Keith Jones are doing, but we got to be patient. But Flyers, 4-1 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. But that does lead us into our thankful spotlight for today. Leading into Thanksgiving, we're talking about what we're thankful for in honor of our food and gift drive benefiting the Maddie and Dixon Community Cupboard. We all out there are should be grateful and thankful, so let's donate and help make some holiday magic happen. But today, what we're thankful for is Matvei Michkov, and the 7th overall pick in 2023. We all thought it'd be 2-3 years minimum that he was going to be over here playing NHL hockey for the Flyers. And there was always that possibility, even when they drafted him, that's why he slipped down to them, that he might not even come over at all, depending on how the KHL wanted to work his contract. Through the unfortunate events of his father being murdered and the KHL really actually caring about this kid, they worked out a deal, thought the change of scenery would do him well, and he's done nothing but bring excitement around the Flyers. They're actually fun to watch. And yes, they have lapses. Yes, they go through lulls where they don't play well, but they're a young team in a rebuild mode. A lot of these guys that are on this team are not going to be the core moving forward. So they're entertaining to watch. Through 18 games so far, including last night, he has 15 points. I think it's like 7 goals, 8 assists, or something along those lines. I've had it all set up to do the math this morning, and I did not. But either way, I know he has 15 points in 18 games, and just his ice presence alone is what I think I'm the most impressed with. Like, the passes that he threads, and he is able to sort of get in are just incredible. Some of his shots are just ridiculous. And he's, like I said, he is going to be the future of this team. And the fact that the team is rallying around him and they're sticking up for him, they're fighting for him, they are saying he's just how much of a great teammate he is. And keep in mind, he's only 19. So the future is certainly bright for the Flyers. The culture is changing around this team. And by the way, I just did the research. 6 goals, 9 assists for Matvei Michkov in 18 games, including an overtime game winner a couple nights ago. But I think the big thing with this Flyers team is the culture is changing. And it was broken for so long that I think we forget just how good this organization is and how much the Flyers are part of NHL history. So, Matvei Michkov, we are thankful for you today as you're bringing back excitement and changing the culture of Flyers hockey. So, Matvei, we are thankful for you, and thank you for coming over to play for the Flyers. All right, some Eagles news. Not a lot coming out of camp this week, which is probably a good thing, because this is a huge game, playoff implications, and just sort of the Eagles staking claim as a Super Bowl contender. Some injury news, though. Bryce Huff had wrist surgery. He is out indefinitely. He was starting to turn it around somewhat, but that means likely Jalix Hunt is probably going to get some more playing time, and I'm okay with that. I think he showed some progress and some promise, so we'll see. But Bryce Huff is expected to come back later this season. Jalen Hurts was limited yesterday in practice with the ankle. Does not seem to be an issue moving forward for the game, just more probably of a rest precautionary thing. But other than that, that's it coming out of Eagles camp. I guess because of all the Sixers news, they're kind of flying under the radar. But that's okay, because pretty soon this is going to be all we're talking about is Eagles. But we'll have more on the Eagles-Rams, including an update on the injury report as we move into tomorrow. Programming note, don't forget on Sunday, we'll give our 3 keys to the game and our betting prediction, which we are now 5-5 on since we lost last week again with Washington. Zack Wheeler took second place in the Cy Young. Bridesmaid yet again. Certainly probably the best pitcher in Major League Baseball to not win a Cy Young. I saw a lot of talk yesterday from national media that he is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. So while he did not win the Cy Young, certainly our ace and certainly somebody I'm glad that is on our team. And then we'll kind of put the bow on Phillies talk now until they start. Like I said, there's all kinds of rumors coming out, too many to kind of follow on. But once there's some more definitive things, we'll start looking at what the Phillies are going to do this offseason. But today, and no pun intended on this, or maybe there is a pun intended, double feature Thursday today. And two events in Philly sports history today I wanted to talk about. First is probably one of the most iconic, I guess, well, obviously it's the most iconic movie probably shot in Philadelphia, but just a huge part of Philadelphia sports now. And on this day in 1976, Rocky was released to the public for the first time up in New York. It was widely released a couple days later on December 3rd, after the premiere that happened the night before. Rocky won 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and really sums up the mindset of Philadelphia sports fans. The scrappy underdog, always thinks the world's out to get him, just kind of goes about, does his business, and never really, like, I know there's been probably better and widely acclaimed movies shot in Philadelphia, but for my money, Rocky is probably the best movie ever shot and based in Philadelphia. Feel free to tell me how wrong I am on the Back to the Future voice and text line. But Rocky was the brainchild of Sylvester Stallone, and likely there's not one person that he is truly based off of. The biggest, I guess, influence for Rocky was probably Chuck Wepner, who fought Muhammad Ali in the 70s and was supposed to just be a tomato can, to take the words of Mick, but gave Muhammad Ali a fight, knocked him down. And so sort of that is what it's based on, like the movie itself. There's some elements of Joe Frazier, Thomas Rocco, Rocky Graziano. So this fighter was a middleweight champion, Thomas Rocco Barbella, but they called him Rocky Graziano. It's more just for the name. And then, of course, Rocky Marciano, a lot of the fighting style from Rocky is based on that. So a lot of influence on Rocky. But on this day, 1976, Rocky was released to the public, winning the Academy Award for Best Picture and really just becoming probably one of the most popular and favorite Philadelphia athletes of all time. And he's a fictional character. But we all love Rocky, and for my money, Rocky 1 is still one of the all-time greatest in the franchise. But again, sums up the Philly mindset, and that opened up on this day in 1976. And then on this day in 2003, Temple and Villanova opened up the college basketball season at the Liacouras Center at 12:01 a.m. And Nova won 73-48. It was pretty much a blowout. The Temple Owls were sort of at the end of the John Chaney era. But the story behind this is crazy, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. Injuries and suspensions for using illegal phone cards really had Villanova's roster depleted. The game was already scheduled, I guess, in the spring or the summer. And then later on, Villanova was invited to play in the Maui Invitational. They didn't want to have to play that game after, well, first of all, they didn't want to have to go to the tournament with a depleted roster. They also didn't want to have to fly out late and have to deal with travel after the Temple game. So they were trying to move it. The problem is they didn't talk to Temple about it. And if you know anything about John Chaney, not happy about it. Not happy about it at all. He said, screw it. We're keeping the game. Through the help of Fran Dunphy, who was at Penn at the time, they agreed to play at 12:01, which was the first allowable day that a game could take place on November 21st. Chaney was not happy and gave Jay Wright the business throughout that offseason leading up to the game. Game started. Obviously, both buses of Villanova fans came into the Liacouras Center. Both fans were pretty well lubricated, so to speak. And a Coke bottle flew from the upper deck out of the Villanova section. John Chaney stopped the game, walked out to midcourt with the microphone. Everybody thought Chaney was going to address the crowd, motioned to Jay Wright and said, here, this is coming from your fans. And like Chaney was just pissed about having to play this game. So Jay Wright got on and said, we're acting with some class, don't do this, blah, 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 blah. But John Chaney, knowing what his team was and what Villanova's team was afraid that this was going to escalate and there was going to be fights between Temple fans and Villanova fans. But on this day, back in 2003, Temple and Villanova played a game at 12:01 a.m. Because Villanova didn't want to play a tournament because their players were suspended for doing something illegal. Now, I've softened my stance over the years, but it was stuff like this that really fueled my hate for Villanova, fueled my hate for Jay Wright. I did meet Jay Wright a couple years ago. He's a nice guy. Has nothing but respect for Coach Chaney, but it's just stuff like this. This the pompous arrogance of it all. I have softened it, but I know there's a lot of you out there that know me from Temple who are like, yeah, screw Villanova, screw Jay Wright. But on this day in 2003, they played at 12:01 a.m. so Villanova could play 2 cupcake games in the Maui before the Maui Invitational, so they could work out the suspension and not have a depleted roster for the tournament. On this day, also in 1976, Rocky was released to the public, one of the most iconic Philadelphia movies, and for my money, the best Philadelphia movie ever made. Let me know your thoughts on that, because I'm sure there's a ton of you that are going to have an issue with that. But let's have some fun on a Thursday. 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. We will have more on the Eagles, the fiasco that is the Sixers right now. Look ahead to the next Flyers game. And just continue to talk about what we're thankful for. Matvei Michkov, I'm looking at you. We are certainly thankful for you in Philadelphia today. And don't forget, help our friends and neighbors. Donate to the gift and food drive. Let's buy some gift cards. Make some holiday magic happen. The GoFundMe is in there. And remember, if you're going to donate directly to the Matty N. Dixon Community Cupboard, let them know that you're donating on behalf of this day in Philly sports history. So that way they know kind of where to put it and make sure, because we're trying to do a whole big thing with that. So I would appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Whew, I told you we had a lot to get to today. I'll have more on that St. Joe's women's field hockey game tomorrow too. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 21st, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday. And until next time, yo Adrian.